Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Kim and you're at Kim's Cozy Corner. Today I am sitting outside of my she shed enjoying some shade because we went from a temperature of 40 degrees 2 days ago and now we're at almost 80. So Southwest Ohio, if you don't like the weather, just wait, it'll change. Today, I just want to share with you some clips of some of the different things that I've been doing in the garden over the last couple of weeks. I want to share with you me setting up some of my containers for my potatoes, as well as planting onion and some other vegetables into the garden. So let's just get right to it. The first video I'm going to show you has to deal with the potatoes. I started a lot of potatoes. So there are at least 25, I believe, containers of potatoes. So let me share with you that process. We have had our potatoes chitting inside for probably about a month in all. So we took the potatoes, we put them in containers, we put them in the dark, we covered them up. They all got eyes on them, and then I cut them into the pieces that we will use in each of the containers. And now it's time for us to get them into the containers. And I have a helper with me today. The way I like to do my potatoes, I only do containers. I don't do anything in raised bed. I don't do anything in ground. I only do containers. And when it's time to harvest, you'll understand why. We are going to put some soil, which I have extra soil in this container right here. I'm going to put soil in the container. We're going to add the potatoes as well as some very specific types of organic fertilizer. So let me share with you the different types of fertilizer. Garden Tone is my old faithful. I use it pretty much for everything. It's my generic, very general fertilizer. So we will be using this in each one of the containers today. Garden Tone is organic and it has an NP&K of 344, which is very low. In addition to the Garden Tone, for my potatoes, I like to do bone meal as well as blood meal. Some people use one or the other. I like to put a little bit of both. They both have a little different function. This is bone meal. It's organic bone meal, and it has a NP&K of 4, 12, and 0. That middle number for phosphate is very high on this. It has a little bit of nitrogen, not a lot, just a little bit of nitrogen. Nitrogen gives you green leaves. It's all about foliage and the green tops of a plant. That would be for the N. The P, the phosphate, is all about root crops. So you want a higher P for root crops, things that are going to grow underneath the ground. So that's why I like bone meal. And then I also like a little blood meal if I can get it. I can't always get blood meal. Blood meal is high in, well, it's only, if you think about NP&K, it's a 1200. It's all about nitrogen. So I'm only going to put a teeny little bit in there because we're going to need that foliage to collect the sun's rays, right? We want the sun's rays to make it nice, green, and lush up above so we can have the roots growing the potatoes down below. So those are the 3 fertilizers I'll be using. Now, I don't have all of my potatoes out here today. I just picked up what I could carry from downstairs, but this will get us started. So let's just jump right into it. So we will be using these containers, if I can unstack them. Struggling and it just fell off. Oh my goodness. Talk about wasted effort. Oh my goodness. Oh, that was crazy. I was struggling. I was fighting and it just bloop, fell right off. Okay, now that we've had a good laugh. So these are, let's see what these are. Number 7. That doesn't tell me anything. I think they're 10-gallon. I don't remember what size these are. If I can find out the size of these containers, I'll let you know. But I think they're 10-gallon, not 100% sure. And this is, I have no clue. Doesn't say either. So, but they're 2 different styles. One is slightly bigger than the other. So that's why I think that's 10 gallons and that's 7 gallons. I will double check. If I can figure it out, I'll put it right here. Now that I've struggled and I got them apart, let's go through the process here. So I have soil left over from last year, and we're going to start by adding some of this soil to the bottom of the containers. Do you want to do this task? My helper has filled this container about a little over a quarter of the way full, maybe about a third of the way full. And now we are going to add our fertilizer here. I'm going to add 1 handful of the garden tone. I'm going to add just a teeny little bit of the bone meal. And all the reason I'm adding such a small amount is because I'm going to put it in multiple layers. And then just a teeny little bit of the blood meal. And if I didn't have blood meal, that's okay. As long as I got the bone meal, because that's the key one. Bone meal and a garden tone general all-purpose fertilizer are the primary 2. Lightly mixing it up. I'm not going all the way down to the bottom, just in the top, maybe inch or so. And then we're going to put in our potatoes. Let's do Prairie Blush. When you put your potatoes in, you want the eyes facing up. And so I'm putting 2 on this layer. And then my little helper is going to give me some more dirt in this bucket. And you're going to put me some more dirt in there about halfway, okay? And while she's working on that one, I'll prepare the next one. For my early potatoes, I like to put 4 potatoes into a container. Usually your early potatoes are your determinate potatoes, typically, and they all grow on 1 layer. By me putting 4 potatoes in, 2 on one side on 1 layer, and then spin it, and then 2 on the other side, it gives me 4 plants that aren't going to crowd each other out. And Prairie Blush is an early potato. So again, if you can see in the camera there, I have the 2 potatoes in there. That one slid over when I showed it to you, but on each of the corners, on 2 sides. Now do this one. Now my pot is about half full. My potatoes are on these 2 sides. And so I'm going to repeat the process with a little handful of fertilizer, handful of the bone meal. A sprinkling, not a handful, sprinkling. I'm going to lightly give it a mix, the top inch or 2. And then I'm going to add 2 more Prairie Blush. And the last 2 are on these sides. So I'm going to put this front to back. And we're going to finish filling this container up. Let me get my helper going here. I don't think she can reach the soil anymore. Make sure you get it in the pot, not on the ground. Dirt costs $20 a bag. Did you know that? No, ma'am. One of these bags, right here, look. One of these bags costs $20. That's crazy. So we got to make sure we don't miss the pot, okay? Okay. All right, I just wanted to double check. My potatoes are on the side. Some general fertilizer, some bone meal, and a teeny little bit of blood meal. Mix it in the top couple of inches. Grab 2 more Prairie Blush potatoes. And instead of the sides, we're going to go front to back. And I will have my helper finish filling this one up. And that's the process for all of these potatoes. So I will be back once we get these finished, and I will show you what all we got done. So I'll be right back. All right, so I thought I'd bring you back and kind of show you where I am in the process. All of these containers have at least 1 layer of potatoes in them. For my early and mid potatoes, I'm going to put 2 potatoes in there. Figured I'd do this more like an assembly line. versus one at a time. I've used all of my soil from last year, and now I'm moving on to a new bag of Pro Mix. Now, like I said, some of these I still need to get a second layer of potatoes in them. I'm going to have to just push them through the soil a little bit so that I can get them, I don't know, about halfway down in the pot. Just didn't want to have to fill them up more than one time. This is not easy on my back. Lehigh, I keep saying it wrong. I will do 2 layers in my Lehigh. Prairie Blush, I've already done 2 layers. That is definitely an early potato. My russet potatoes, I'm only doing 1 layer on those. They're late potatoes. And I'm hoping by doing 1 layer and only 2 potatoes in a container that I can get some larger russet potatoes this year. I usually leave about 2 inches to 3 inches, I don't know, maybe up to 4 inches at the top. And then I will line all of these containers with straw or some type of mulch, so to keep the moisture in and keep the containers cool once it starts getting hot. Some people say that you should mound up the dirt. So as the plants break the soil, then you keep backfilling and backfilling until it comes out. Once I get outside, I don't use that process. Once I'm outside, I just go ahead and fill the containers all the way to the top, and the potatoes always find a way and they come out. It just saves a step. Or if I'm running light on soil, then I'll use the backfill method just so I can stretch what I have on hand to get other projects done. That's it for the potato project. Let's move on to the next project. Since I had a little helper with me, that process took a little longer than I really wanted it to. But I know she enjoyed helping me for the first part of the video anyway. And then I think she got bored and left. So then I was able to move a little faster in getting some of those potatoes into the pots and getting them set up. You'll be seeing those potatoes on all of my weekly garden tours. In addition to the potatoes, I did quite a few other projects that day. And so let me share with you those projects as well. The next thing I'm going to do is start my onion. So we're going to take my onion and we are going to transplant them into the main garden bed. This particular bed has already been weeded. We've already amended the soil. And even though I said it's been weeded, I'm pulling weeds out, right? It's a never-ending battle when it comes to your weeds. This should be a simple process. Last year I did it and I got some decent sized heads. But I learned a few more new tricks this year. The first thing you want to do is gently separate your onion, and the roots are very forgiving. Slowly separating the root. I'm trying to make sure I stay over a bed. Can't waste my $20 soil. And the roots are nice and wiry. And I'm going to plant this in the soil just above where I see the bulb is trying to form already. That's as deep as I'm going to go. That's it. And I'm going to space mine about 4 inches apart. And they're going to look all weepy and weak at first. But after those roots take hold, they'll stand up straight and they'll be very happy. The red burgundy is for mom. You got to take care of your mother. So I'm going to finish this process and I'll be right back with you so you can see my work. So I have 2 beds finished with onion. And now we're going to move on to the next project. For this next project, I am going to plant some of my cabbage. So we will be planting 6 heads of cabbage. The same way we up-potted cabbage when we started them as young seedlings the first time we up-potted them from seeds, we're going to use the exact same process. And another peanut. So the squirrels and the peanuts are going to be a thing this year, I see. So every foot square, I can put 1 cabbage. And doing this does a couple different things. One, it gives it enough room to truly grow. And the plants are close enough, they're not smothering each other, but the plants are close enough that they keep weeds from coming up. So it kind of blocks the weed growth so you don't have to weed your bed as much. Now, even though this bed already has fertilizer in it, I like to add some mycos. This is a mycorrhizal inoculant. helps strengthen the roots of whatever plant it is you're growing. And so far, everything that I've put this in has started off super strong and healthy. So I'm going to continue this process. This looks very healthy, very, very healthy. So I'm going to put just a teeny bit right in the spot, and I'm going to plant this cabbage to the same level that it was already planted. Tuck it in just a little bit there. The stone head is in. And so I've planted 6 cabbage. The earliest, I believe, is 65 days, and the longest, I think, is 90 days. But we have cabbage in, ready to go. Let's move on to the next project. This next project is one I'm super excited about. I am growing, for the first time, rhubarb. And I love strawberry rhubarb pie. But from my understanding, I should not be harvesting my rhubarb this year. Rhubarb is a perennial. It comes back every year, and it usually takes a couple of years to get the roots established. And I should be able to harvest off of this next year. So I'm putting it in a bed that I don't really use that frequently. And in this bed here, I'm going to be honest with you, I have not had great luck in this bed. So whether I'm trying to grow lettuce or cabbage or, even garlic, I seem to have trouble in this bed. So I'm going to turn this bed into a perennial bed, at least on this end, and I'm going to add the rhubarb here. This bed, I never prepared this bed like I did the other ones. And I'm not ready to prepare the whole bed at this time still. So I'm only going to work on this end here where I'm going to put the rhubarb in. Another peanut. I'm not going to disturb all of the soil. I am just going to disturb right where I'm going to add the rhubarb, which is right here. And since I didn't prepare this bed, I need to add some fertilizer. And anytime you put fertilizer in your bed and you're getting ready to put plants on that, in that spot, you should always mix that fertilizer in, because the fertilizer could burn your plants, right? If you set it straight on, a massive amount of fertilizer. So you always want to mix it in, and then the top 2 to 4 inches, just so that you don't burn your plant. And for the rhubarb, same thing, just like we did when we were up potting it. We are going to plant this to the same depth that it's in this container. We will also add some mycos. I'll put a little bit in the pocket, and this is such a large plant, and it has a very thick root. It should have a very thick root. There it is. And I'm going to add just a little bit to the actual root itself. And let's put this in to the same level it already was. And there's my perennial rhubarb. And it'll come back year after year. And next year, these little pink reddish stems, I will be pulling them off, cutting them up, and making rhubarb pie. That's it for the rhubarb. Let's move on to the next project. For this next project, we're going to do the exact same thing with this Chinese cabbage as we did with traditional cabbage over two beds over. For this particular bed, I did not add fertilizer. I added worm castings and mushroom compost, but I did not add fertilizer. I had went back and added fertilizer to pretty much all the beds, but I held off on this bed because I ran out. I had to go buy some more. So I'm going to have to add a little fertilizer over here to each of the pockets that I'm going to add the Chinese cabbage. This is a Napa Bilko cabbage. So we're going to plant the 3 healthy and the 1 not so healthy plant. All right, I've decided where my 4 spots are going to be. I need to add a little bit of fertilizer, and I'm going to have to mix it in because you don't want to burn your plants. Now, mycos, you want to touch your plants. You know, you don't want a whole bunch. It doesn't take but a little bit, but it's okay if that touches your plant. So this Bilko Napa cabbage desperately wants a new home, and we're going to give it a new home. The roots are all circled around the container. It was saying, please free me. If I remember correctly, the Bilko Napa cabbage gets to massive barrel-shaped heads. And I'm going to learn to make kimchi. I will learn how to make it. And I want to ferment it. I don't want the quick way. I want it fermented. And from here, we're going to move on to a totally different project. It's not often that I can spend an entire day in the garden doing nothing but starting those first transplants of the season. I had a full day of working in the garden and it was amazing. I was able to start quite a few items, including onion as well as some of my cabbages, and not to mention the potatoes. So we had great fun. I hope you enjoyed the video with those clips of me spending the day in the garden. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Also, I ask you to really consider subscribing to my channel. I'm getting really close to having the 1,000 subscribers, and I can't get there without you. Thank you for joining me for another video. Have a wonderful, blessed day. Bye-bye.